So Nintendo Switch 2 editions of Nintendo Switch 1 games come in all different sorts of shapes and sizes. You have the $10 upgrades for games like The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom that just do things like graphical and performance upgrades, maybe some lighting and stuff like that. And then you have the free upgrades for games that's a bit more minimal than what you get in the Legend of Zelda games, and then you have the $20 upgrades for games that add in additional content, whether it's new types of mini games or something like a new story mode. Super Mario Party Country Bear Jamboree Online, whatever it's called, was the first game to get the $20 sort of price upgrade, in which it had additional content in it, but I didn't play it because I didn't buy the original game. But Kirby in the Forgotten Land, well, that's a game that I enjoyed. When I played it back in 2022, I believe it was a game that I reviewed on the channel, and I had a really good time with it. I thought it was pretty fun. It was a nice looking game, some performance issues here and there, but the overall package was definitely very enjoyable. Now, I didn't 100% the game or anything like that, but I definitely felt like I got my money's worth out of it. I did beat the game. There are a lot of collectibles in the game, and the additional DLC content, Star-Crossed World, that is available only on the Nintendo Switch 2 kind of expands upon that. If you're kind of looking for a review of the base game, you might want to watch my original video on it, but if you are familiar with this game, then you are in the right place here, because we're just going to mostly focus on the things that have been done for the Switch 2 edition of the game, such as the new content, the new story elements, and of course the performance upgrades that have been done for this game. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Kirby and the Forgotten Land Star-Crossed World, it's a game for completionists if you are someone who enjoys doing that. No, not the type of completionist who doesn't give money that he says he's giving money to charity. No, like a completionist of like video games and stuff like that. Can I make that joke? I feel like I can make that joke. I mean, I was really making that joke when the news first broke out. But Kirby, I should say, and the Star-Crossed World is basically some additional content for the base game with some graphical improvements as well. On the overworld of the map, there's all of a sudden this little thing that comes down from the sky, like a big meteor comes down from the sky, and a bunch of crystal, flies off of it, and then these little beings called stars fly off of it as well, and now you got to restore the meteor. And obviously, it's a Kirby game, so you're not going to get anything too crazy in terms of the story or anything like that, but it does kind of get a little bit interesting towards the latter portions of it as far as the story is concerned. But it's fine. It's just a vehicle to kind of introduce why there is new stuff in the game, essentially. Now, when it comes to the new stuff in the game, the Star-Crossed World introduces 12 new levels into the game, and they're new levels in the sense that there's new paths to go and there's new areas to go in, but they are based on levels that already exist in the game. They're just kind of expanded upon. So, you'll see like a level, you fly to a level on the overworld map, and then there will be a segment of that on certain levels where you could choose a star-crossed version of that level, and then you play it on there. And, I think for the most part, it's pretty fun. Having 12 levels doesn't seem like all that much, but you do have to do things within the levels in order to get a certain amount of starries. These starries kind of act like a star in Super Mario 64, where you will get to a point where in order to advance to the next level in the game, you have to have a certain amount of starries. So you might have to go and replay a level again in order to get your starry count up, which does encourage exploration. Now, besides just having 12 new levels, there are some new mouthful forms that you will come across. There are 3 new mouthful forms. And I mean, they're fine. They're obviously kind of ingrained in the levels where, it's kind of like, okay, this is new and this is what you do with it. And this level's kind of based around it. So, it's cool. It's fine. It wasn't like atrocious or anything like that. Were they necessarily super memorable? I mean, the spring thing was kind of neat, I guess. It was kind of fun to mess around with, the one you roll up on the wall and stuff. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily like groundbreakingly different than the other mouthful forms that you get in the game. It's just additional ones that you can check out. Aside from that, of course, you do have some other stuff that has been added into the game. Like I said, there are new figurines to collect in the game, and you can exchange different things that you pick up within the level to get like a gacha system in order to get more of these figurines if you want to collect all of them. Of course, the base game does have a ton of side content that you can do should you choose to do it, mini games and stuff like that. So it is a pretty intense package overall. There's actually a new boss rush mode that has been added into the game that's actually pretty challenging. I haven't really messed around with it too much, but really, you're not getting a ton of game here. Now, granted, it is just a $20 upgrade, but if you're just looking forward to the new stuff of the game, it doesn't really overstay its welcome. But, you could essentially beat it in an afternoon or two. We've got a long weekend, like Labor Day weekend's coming up. You could easily get through all of the new, at least the level content, within the course of a weekend. Now, the other thing that was changed in this version of the game was a performance upgrade. Like I said, the Switch 1 version was a little, it had some performance issues here and there. One of the main things for me with the Switch 1 version of the game was enemies in the distance were like 5 frames per second. Like you could literally see them like moving very choppily and is choppily a word? Very choppy, I should say, and very slowly. Now, I wouldn't say it's been 100% rectified in this game because I have noticed a few enemies do look a little bit lower at a lower frame rate, but for the most part, it is a hell of a lot better. And I do think that that is probably my favorite upgrade with the visuals of the game, because I don't think the visuals necessarily look like that much better or something like that. Like, they do obviously look better than the Switch 1 game, but at its core, it definitely still feels like a Switch 1 game. You're not getting, it's not kind of like where you play something like Breath of the Wild, where, that game had, blurriness at times, it had frame rate issues at times, this, that, and the other. And when you get that Switch 2 version, it feels like a completely different game. I don't think Kirby and the Forgotten Land Star-Crossed World feels like a different game. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad or anything like that. I mean, that's just kind of the fact of the matter for me. There are some very nice graphical effects here and there, and the game does run at a much better frame rate. But as far as like the visual fidelity is concerned, it looks a bit sharper, but I don't think it's very noticeable, especially like in docked mode. I don't think the visual clarity is like a huge step up. It's a step up, but it's more of an incremental step up. And then you kind of get to the main question here with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the Star-Crossed World. Should you pay $80 for this? And like, it's such a tough thing to say, because I obviously paid $20 for the DLC. I bought the game when it came out in 2022, so technically I have spent $80 on it. But I bought the game in 2022 not knowing that there was going to be $20 DLC, 3 years later. So it feels a little bit different. Shelling out $80 at once is a bit of a harder pill to swallow for a lot of people, especially in this economy. I think if you own Kirby in the Forgotten World and you enjoyed it and you want something else out of that game, for $20, like, sure, why not? You're going to have fun. It still feels like Kirby. There's new stuff added into it, new bosses to fight and stuff like that. So that's a cool thing. Buying it for $80, I mean, it's your money. I don't know that I would buy it for $80. Like, if you didn't like Kirby in the Forgotten Land, this isn't going to make you like it all of a sudden. But if you're curious about it, I would hit up like eBay, Mercari, Facebook Marketplace. See if you can get a copy for like $40 maybe. Maybe wait for a sale for the base game and then pick up the DLC, because you can do things like that. And if you find a version of the game for like $40 used or something like that, and then you just got to pay $20 for the upgrade, now you're at $60. And honestly, you're coming out better than I am in this situation. I definitely enjoy the Star-Crossed World, though. It's fun. It looks pretty good. And, it's a good time, but I don't know how many more Switch 2 versions of Switch 1 games like I really need, because I've played a lot of these and I've beaten a lot of these already, and it's like, yeah, the additional content's cool, but like, I'm not playing through Breath of the Wild again. I'm not playing through Tears of the Kingdom again. Like, I've already beaten those games. I'm good. I'm looking for the next thing that's coming out. But not bad, not bad. I had fun with it. And I think if you're a Kirby fan, you'll enjoy it as well. So let me know in the comment section down below. Have you picked it up? Did you forget this was coming out? Because I almost did. And then I was like, oh, hey, wait a minute. I got to pick this up and play it and let people know how it is. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. Or go to hell. I'm just kidding. You're not going there, pal. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.